The warning sirens screamed across Earth's orbital defense stations. Captain Jake Morrison pressed his face against the viewport of Defense Platform 7 and watched as alien ships filled the darkness between the stars. There were so many of them that they blocked out the light from distant suns. "How many?" Jake asked his second-in-command, Lieutenant Tony Garcia. "Computer says 12,000 ships, sir. Maybe more. They're still coming through the jump points." Jake felt his stomach drop. Earth's entire defense fleet had only 800 ships. Even with the orbital platforms and ground-based weapons, they were badly outnumbered. The communication screen flickered to life. An alien face appeared covered in blue crystal formations that shifted and glowed. Jake recognized it from the intelligence reports. This was Overlord Jextai of the Vorthak Empire, the leader of the alien coalition called the Hegemony. "Humans of Earth." The alien's voice was like breaking glass translated by the computer. "You have been judged a threat to galactic peace. Your species spreads too fast. You build weapons too quickly. You ask too many questions. The Hegemony has decided that humanity must be removed." Jake keyed his microphone. "This is Captain Morrison of Earth Defense. We're willing to negotiate. We can discuss boundaries, limits, on expansion, whatever you want." The alien's crystal face showed no emotion. "There will be no negotiation. Your species is a disease that will consume the galaxy if allowed to live. We have seen what you do to planets you colonize. You change them completely. You make them into copies of your home world. This cannot be allowed. We terraform planets that can't support life anyway," Jake protested. "We're not taking anyone's worlds. You will take our worlds eventually. Your kind always wants more. The decision is final. You have 1 hour to surrender all military assets. After that, we begin bombardment." The screen went dark. Jake immediately opened channels to Earth Command and the other defense platforms. "All stations, this is Morrison. Begin Evacuation Protocol 7 immediately. All civilian transports are to launch now. Military vessels are to escort them to the outer system jump points." Far below on Earth's surface, Dr. Lisa Hayes was already running through the corridors of the Global Genetic Archive. She had been married to Jake for 3 years, but the evacuation plan meant she might never see him again. Her job was to get the genetic samples, cultural records, and seed banks to the hidden colony ships. "How long do we have?" asked Dr. Peter Cole, who was helping her load the precious cargo containers. Jake said 1 hour until they start shooting. "But I don't think they'll wait that long." Lisa sealed another container filled with human DNA samples from every population on Earth. If humanity was going to survive somewhere else, they would need genetic diversity. The evacuation ships launched from every spaceport on Earth. Huge cargo, vessels filled with pregnant women, children, and essential personnel. The genetic archives, cultural databases, and manufacturing equipment went into specially shielded transports. Everything that would be needed to rebuild human civilization somewhere else. But the Hegemony didn't wait an hour. The bombardment began 30 minutes after Jextai's ultimatum. Beams of energy that could melt mountains struck Earth's defense platforms. Jake watched Platform 3 explode in a ball of fire that lit up half the planet below. "Return fire," Jake ordered. "Target their command ships." The human weapons were good, but they were fighting 12 different alien technologies at once. The Vorthak had energy weapons that passed through shields. The Kelthani used projectiles that moved faster than light. The Zephyrians deployed something that looked like living metal that ate through armor. Jake's platform shook as enemy fire hit their shields. The lights flickered and several consoles exploded, filling the command center with smoke. "Shield generators are failing," reported Lieutenant Maria Santos from the engineering station. "We've got hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Through the chaos, Jake could see the evacuation ships racing away from Earth. Some of them were taking hits, but most were getting through. The planet's defense fleet was sacrificing itself to buy time for the civilians to escape. His communication system crackled to life. It was Lisa calling from one of the evacuation ships. "Jake, we're clear of the inner system. The genetic archives are safe. We're heading for Rendezvous Point 7. "Good," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady, as his platform shook from another hit. "Keep going, don't look back." "I love you," Lisa said. "I love you too. Take care of our future." The communication cut out as an alien fighter squadron strafed the evacuation convoy. Jake watched helplessly as one of the transports exploded, but the others kept going, protected by the remaining human warships. Down on Earth's surface, the bombardment was turning cities into lakes of melted glass. The oceans began to boil as energy beams superheated the water. The atmosphere itself started to burn as alien weapons pumped more energy into it than the planet could absorb. "Sir, we're getting reports from the surface," Lieutenant Garcia said, his voice shaking. "New York is gone, London is gone, Beijing, Moscow, Cairo, all gone. The continents are cracking apart." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Billions of people were dying below. Everything humans had built over thousands of years was being erased in minutes. But the evacuation was working. The hidden colony ships, disguised as asteroids and comets, were slipping away from the solar system, while the aliens focused on destroying the obvious targets. Humanity would survive, somewhere out there in the dark between stars. Platform 7 shuddered as its main power core was hit. The artificial gravity failed, and Jake found himself floating in the command center, watching Earth die through the viewport. The planet was changing color as its atmosphere burned. The blue and green world that had given birth to humanity was turning orange and red. Soon it would be nothing but a ball of cooling rock. "Evacuation ships have reached jump distance," Santos reported. "They're beginning to disappear from our sensors." Jake nodded. The colony ships were equipped with experimental jump drives that could take them thousands of light years away in a single leap. They would scatter in different directions, making it impossible for the aliens to track them all down. "Mission accomplished then," Jake said quietly. The platform's hull began to crack as alien fire concentrated on their position. Through the growing gaps, Jake could see the alien fleet moving into orbit around the dying Earth. They would probably build monuments here, celebrating their victory over the dangerous humans. They had no idea that thousands of humans were already spreading across the galaxy, carrying with them the memory of this day and the genetic heritage to rebuild their species. The aliens thought they had won a great victory. They had no idea they had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. As Platform 7 broke apart around him, Jake Morrison smiled. Humanity would be back. Maybe not in his lifetime, or in his children's lifetime, but someday. And when that day came, the aliens who did this would learn what human vengeance really meant. The platform exploded in a brief flash of light that was immediately swallowed by the darkness of space. Earth continued to burn below, but scattered across the galaxy, colony ships full of sleeping humans drifted toward distant stars, carrying with them the seeds of the future and the promise of return. The colony ship Exodus drifted through the darkness between stars for 300 years before anyone woke up. When the computers finally activated the revival systems, only half of the original crew survived the long sleep. Dr. Lisa Hayes was among them, though she was no longer truly human. The ship's medical systems had kept her alive far beyond a normal human lifespan. Her body was filled with machines that repaired damage and fought aging. Her mind was connected to the ship's computer, allowing her to process information at incredible speeds. She looked the same as she had when Earth died, but she was something new. "Status report," Lisa said as she stepped out of her sleep pod. Her voice echoed strangely in the empty corridors. "We are in the Kepler 4M42 system," replied the ship's artificial intelligence, speaking through speakers built into the walls. "The system has 7 planets. 2 of them can support human life with minimal terraforming." Lisa walked to the observation deck and looked out at the alien stars. 3 centuries had passed since she last saw Jake die defending Earth. The pain was still fresh in her memory, kept sharp by the computer implants in her brain. How many other colony ships made it? She asked. Long-range sensors detect 12 other human settlements within 500 light-years. We estimate that 47 colony ships escaped Earth's destruction. Most are still traveling or have not yet established contact. Lisa nodded. Scattered across thousands of light-years, the survivors of humanity were waking up in different star systems. Each group would face the same choice: hide forever or prepare for the day when they could return to make the aliens pay. The first generation born on New Haven, as they called their new world, were different from their parents. Dr. Kevin Miller led the genetic modification program that made it possible. The children grew taller and stronger than normal humans. Their bones were denser, their muscles more efficient. Their brains processed information faster and could interface directly with computers. "We're not just adapting them to this world," Kevin explained to Lisa as they watched children play in the settlement's central dome. "We're preparing them for war." The children looked human, but they could survive in environments that would kill their ancestors. They could hold their breath for an hour, see in complete darkness, and heal from injuries that would cripple normal people. Most importantly, they remembered Earth through genetic memory implants that passed down the trauma and anger of their people's destruction. By the 5th generation, the changes were even more dramatic. Commander Alex Carter was born 2000, years after the colony ship arrived at New Haven. He stood 8 feet tall, with silver eyes that could see across multiple spectrums of light. His skin was pale and seemed to glow faintly in darkness. He could live for thousands of years and interface with any computer system just by touching it. "The memorial project is complete," Alex reported to the Council of Elders, the group of original survivors who still guided the colony. Lisa Hayes was the oldest among them, now over 2,000 years old but looking no different than the day she left Earth. The memorial was a massive crystal structure that contained the genetic patterns, memories, and cultural records of every human who died when Earth burned. It served as both a reminder of what was lost and a promise of what would be returned. "And the other colonies?" Lisa asked. "New Terra has developed biological weapons that can target alien DNA. New Genesis has created ships that grow like living organisms instead of being built. New Hope has mastered dimensional technology that lets them hide entire fleets in pocket universes." Each human colony had evolved differently, developing unique technologies and capabilities. But they all shared the same goal, preparing for the day when humanity would return to claim vengeance against the hegemony. Dr. Maya Johnson was born on New Terra, 50,000 years after Earth's fall. She was part of the 20th generation of modified humans, so changed from the original species that aliens would not recognize her as human. Her body was partially cybernetic, with mechanical organs that were more efficient than biological ones. Her brain was expanded with quantum processors that let her think at superhuman speeds. Maya's breakthrough came when she discovered how to weaponize dark matter. The universe was filled with invisible matter that interacted with normal matter only through gravity. Maya found a way to control it, turning it into weapons that could destroy entire star systems. "We can collapse stars," Maya explained to the colony leaders. "We can create black holes. We can tear holes in space itself. The aliens have never seen anything like this." The technology was dangerous beyond imagination. A single mistake could destroy not just the colony, but entire regions of space. But the humans who had survived Earth's destruction were willing to take any risk if it meant striking back at their enemies. Commander Ryan Davis was born 100,000 years after the fall. He was part of a new breed of human that could survive in the vacuum of space without protection. His skin was like armor. His blood could carry oxygen for days without breathing, and his bones were stronger than steel. Ryan commanded the first deep space reconnaissance mission to the edge of human territory. His ship, the Vengeance, was grown, rather than built, its hull alive and able to heal damage. The crew of 50 was more machine than human, their bodies modified for centuries of travel through hostile space. "We're approaching the border of known space," Ryan reported back to New Haven, beginning long-range scans for hegemony activity. The data that came back showed that the alien coalition still controlled most of the galaxy. They had grown even larger, absorbing dozens of new species into their empire. They had also grown complacent, believing that humanity was extinct and that no other species could challenge their dominance. But the humans were patient. They had learned patience from 500 centuries of exile. While the aliens celebrated their victory and built monuments to their triumph, humanity evolved and prepared. By the year 400,000 after Earth's fall, the scattered human colonies had re-established contact with each other. They had developed technologies that the aliens could not imagine. Their bodies were so changed that they could survive in environments that would instantly kill any other known species. Captain Emma Foster was born in the 500th generation of modified humans. She could live for 10,000 years, think faster than any computer, and survive the explosion of a star. Her body was a work of art that combined the best of organic evolution and mechanical engineering. Emma commanded a new type of ship that existed partially in normal space and partially in other dimensions. It could travel faster than light without using conventional jump drives, making it invisible to alien detection systems. The time of hiding is ending, Emma announced to the assembled representatives of all human colonies. Our children are ready. Our weapons are ready. Our ships are ready. The aliens who destroyed Earth and murdered our people have grown fat and lazy in their victory. They think they are safe. The meeting took place on Sanctuary, a hidden world that existed in a pocket dimension created by human technology. Representatives from 97 human colonies attended, each one representing billions of modified humans who had been born for one purpose: to return to the galaxy and make the aliens pay. "How long until we're ready for the first strike?" asked Admiral Ben Clark, a veteran warrior whose body was more machine than flesh. "One more generation," Emma replied. "Our scouts report that the aliens have built a military academy on the ruins of Earth. They train their officers there, teaching them about the great victory over the human plague. It will be the perfect target for our return." The assembled humans smiled, and their smiles were terrible to see. They had waited 500,000 years for this moment. Soon the galaxy would learn that humanity was far from extinct, and the price for destroying Earth would be paid in full. Scout Captain Ryan Foster materialized inside his ship's bridge like a ghost stepping through a wall. His body was so modified that he could phase between dimensions, making him invisible to any known detection system. After 500,000 years of evolution, humans had become something that aliens would not recognize. "We're at the edge of hegemony space," reported Lieutenant Kate Stevens, his second in command. Like Ryan, she barely looked human anymore. Her skin had a metallic sheen that could deflect energy weapons, and her eyes glowed with internal light that let her see across multiple dimensions. The ship they traveled in was called the Shadow Walker. It had been grown in the biological shipyards of New Genesis, its hull alive and breathing. The ship could heal damage, adapt to new threats, and existed partially outside normal space-time. To alien sensors, it would appear to be nothing more than empty space. "Beginning passive scans," Kate said, her fingers dancing across controls that were more like living tissue than metal buttons. "I'm picking up massive energy signatures throughout this system." Ryan studied the holographic display that materialized in front of him. The star system they were approaching had been called Wolf 359 in the old Earth star charts. Now it was designated as Hegemony Sector 7, a major military installation. "Look at all those ships," Ryan whispered. The system was filled with alien vessels, thousands of them, representing all 12 species of the hegemony. The crystalline ships of the Vorthak Empire gleamed like jewels in the starlight. The biomechanical vessels of the Kelthani writhed through space like living creatures. The geometric craft of the Zephyrians moved in perfect formation. "They've built an entire fleet base here," Kate observed. "This must be one of their primary staging areas." Ryan nodded grimly. The humans had been watching and learning for centuries, but this was their first close look at current hegemony military strength. The aliens had not been idle during humanity's exile. Their technology had advanced, their fleets had grown, and their empire had expanded across most of the galaxy. "Scanning for defensive systems," Kate reported. "I'm detecting energy shields around all major installations, automated weapon platforms, patrol routes covering every approach vector." The aliens had learned to be careful. 500,000 years of ruling the galaxy had taught them that new threats could emerge without warning, but they were preparing for conventional attacks from species like themselves. They had no idea what evolved humanity was capable of. "Take us closer to that monitoring station," Ryan ordered, pointing to a crystalline structure orbiting the system's third planet. The Shadow Walker drifted through space like a piece of cosmic debris. Its living hull adjusted its temperature and energy signature to match the background radiation of space. Even if an alien ship passed within a few kilometers, their sensors would detect nothing unusual. As they approached the monitoring station, Kate began intercepting alien communications. The universal translator that humanity had developed could decode any known language instantly, even the complex crystalline harmonics of the Vorthak. "They're discussing patrol schedules," Kate reported, "and something about a ceremony next month. They're celebrating the anniversary of something they call the Great Cleansing." Ryan's jaw tightened. He knew what that meant. The aliens were celebrating the destruction of Earth. "Where are they holding this ceremony?" he asked. Kate's expression grew dark as she processed more intercepted messages. "The Sol system. They've built a military academy on the ruins of Earth. Every year they bring their best officer candidates there to learn about their greatest victory." Ryan felt ancient rage burning in his chest. The genetic memory implants that all evolved humans carried made him remember Earth's destruction, as if he had been there personally. He could see Jake Morrison's final moments, feel Lisa Hayes's grief, as she watched her homeworld burn. "We need to get closer to Earth," Ryan said. "Command needs to see what they've done to our homeworld." The journey to the Sol system took 3 weeks, even with the Shadow Walker's advanced propulsion. They traveled through dimensions that the aliens didn't know existed, slipping past patrol fleets and sensor networks like they weren't there. When they finally arrived at Earth's solar system, both Ryan and Kate stood in shocked silence. The planet that had given birth to humanity was now a barren rock covered in alien structures. Where cities had once stood, crystalline towers reached toward space. The oceans had been drained and replaced with geometric patterns that served some alien purpose. The atmosphere was thin and poisonous, suitable only for Vorthak physiology. "They've turned our homeworld into a training ground," Kate said, her voice filled with disgust. Orbital platforms surrounded the dead planet, each one bristling with weapons and sensors. Ships came and went constantly, bringing young alien officers to learn about warfare. The entire system had been converted into a massive military complex. "Scanning the largest orbital station," Kate reported. "I'm detecting thousands of alien life forms, multiple species. They appear to be students at some kind of academy." Ryan studied the tactical display. The station was enormous, easily large enough to house 50,000 beings. It was also heavily defended, with energy shields and weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. "What's that structure on the planet's surface?" Ryan asked, pointing to a massive crystalline formation that covered what had once been North America. Kate enhanced the image. "It appears to be some kind of monument. I'm detecting energy patterns consistent with holographic projection systems." As they watched, the monument activated. A massive hologram appeared above Earth's surface, showing the planet as it had been when humans lived there. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in a living atmosphere. Then the hologram changed, showing the hegemony fleet arriving. It showed Earth's defenses fighting desperately. It showed the planet burning as alien weapons turned the atmosphere into fire. "They're showing the destruction to their students," Kate realized. "They're using Earth's death as a teaching tool." The hologram continued, showing human evacuation ships being destroyed. It showed orbital platforms exploding. It showed Earth becoming the dead rock it was now. At the end, text appeared in multiple alien languages, declaring the victory of civilization over the human plague. Ryan had seen enough. "Begin recording everything. Every ship, every weapon, every defensive system. Command needs to know exactly what we're dealing with." For the next month, the Shadow Walker remained hidden in the outer solar system, documenting alien activities. They watched as new classes of officers arrived to learn about the great victory. They recorded the defensive patterns, the communication protocols, and the schedule of supply convoys. They also discovered something that made Ryan's blood run cold. The aliens weren't just using Earth as a training facility. They were conducting experiments on the planet's surface, testing new weapons on the remnants of human cities. "They're still destroying us," Kate said as they watched an energy beam vaporize what had once been the ruins of London. Even after all these centuries, they're still finding ways to kill humanity. But the aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had grown comfortable in their victory. Their defenses were designed to stop conventional attacks from known technologies. They had no idea that evolved humans were watching them, learning their weaknesses and preparing for a return that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. "We have what we came for," Ryan finally said. "Time to go home." The Shadow Walker slipped, away from Earth as silently as it had arrived. Behind them, the aliens continued their celebrations, unaware that they were being observed by the ghosts of the species they thought they had exterminated. The journey back to human space took 2 months. When they finally arrived at the hidden world of Sanctuary, Ryan and Kate's report sent shockwaves through the Council of Human Leaders. "They've desecrated our homeworld," Admiral Ben Clark said, after reviewing the reconnaissance data. "They're using Earth as a monument to their victory over us. Then we'll turn their monument into their graveyard," replied General Sam Brooks, his cybernetic implants glowing with barely contained anger. "It's time to show them that humanity is far from dead." The decision was unanimous. The first strike of humanity's return would target Earth itself. They would reclaim their homeworld and announce to the galaxy that the children of Earth had come home. The aliens who had celebrated humanity's destruction for 500,000 years were about to learn that some species refused to stay extinct. Admiral Ben Clark stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution and watched as reality itself tore open in front of him. The massive ship emerged from a dimensional rift that humans had learned to create using technology the aliens could not even imagine. Behind him, 50 more human warships materialized from the spaces between dimensions. "All ships reporting ready for combat," announced Captain Emma Rodriguez from the battlecruiser Nemesis. Her voice carried across the fleet through quantum communication networks that existed outside normal space-time. Ben studied the tactical display showing the Vorthak home system. 3 planets supported billions of crystalline beings who had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. Orbital stations and defense platforms surrounded each world, their weapons powerful enough to destroy entire fleets of conventional ships. "Remember the mission parameters," Ben broadcast to his fleet. "We target only military installations and government facilities. Civilian populations are to be evacuated before we begin bombardment." This was not genocide. This was justice. The humans had spent centuries planning this moment, and they would not become the same monsters who had destroyed Earth. "Beginning approach to the primary target," reported Commander Lucy Wright from the assault ship Vengeance. Detecting massive energy signatures from their orbital defense grid. The Vorthak had built their defenses to stop any imaginable attack. Energy shields that could deflect planet-killing weapons. Automated defense systems that could track and destroy thousands of incoming missiles. Fleets of Guardian ships that patrolled every approach to their worlds. But they had never faced evolved humanity. "All ships, activate dimensional phase systems," Ben commanded. The human fleet flickered and became translucent. They were still there, but they existed partially in another dimension where the alien weapons could not touch them. To Vorthak sensors, the attacking ships appeared as ghostly images that their targeting systems could not lock onto. "Vorthak, defense fleet is launching," Emma reported. "I count over 3,000 ships moving to intercept." Ben smiled grimly. 3,000 ships had been enough to conquer most of the galaxy, but the aliens had never fought an enemy that could exist in multiple dimensions at once. "Begin the demonstration," Ben ordered. The lead human ship, a destroyer called the Wrath, phased back into normal space directly in front of the Vorthak fleet. For a moment, it hung motionless as thousands of alien weapons targeted it. Then the alien guns opened fire, sending streams of crystalline energy that could melt asteroids. The energy beams passed right through the Wrath without causing any damage. The ship's hull was made of programmable matter that could become incorporeal at will. While the aliens were still trying to understand what they were seeing, the Wrath fired a single shot. The weapon was a focused beam of dark matter that struck the lead Vorthak ship and simply erased it from existence. The massive crystalline vessel didn't explode or burn. It just stopped being there, leaving only empty space where it had been. "Impossible," came a transmission from the Vorthak fleet commander. No known technology can do that. You're right, Ben replied on an open channel. No known technology. But you never knew what humans were capable of. The alien fleet commander's response was filled with static and confusion. Humans? But you're extinct. We destroyed your homeworld 500,000 years ago. Did you really think we'd all die so easily? Ben asked. We're the species that survived ice ages, volcanic winters, and asteroid impacts. Did you think a little thing like planetary bombardment would stop us? The Vorthak ships began firing wildly, trying to hit targets they could barely see. Their weapons were powerful, but they were designed to fight enemies that existed in normal space-time. The human ships flickered in and out of reality, striking from impossible angles before vanishing again. Target the orbital defense platforms, Ben ordered. Clear a path for the evacuation ships. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each one targeting a different part of the Vorthak defense grid. They moved like ghosts through the alien formations, their weapons reaching across dimensions to strike targets that thought they were safely protected. One by one, the massive orbital platforms that guarded the Vorthak homeworld began to disappear. Not destroyed, but simply removed from existence by weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. Dr. Nina Walsh to Fleet Command. Came a transmission from one of the human support ships. Beginning civilian evacuation operations. Dr. Walsh commanded a specialized vessel called the Sanctuary. It was designed to rescue non-combatants from war zones, using tractor beams that could lift entire cities into space. Her job was to make sure that innocent aliens didn't die in humanity's quest for justice. Vorthak civilians are being transported to safety, Nina reported. We're taking them to the third planet in this system. It's habitable and far enough from the combat zone. Ben nodded approvingly. This was what separated evolved humanity from their enemies. They remembered the difference between soldiers and civilians, between those who chose war and those who were caught in it. The battle for the Vorthak system lasted 6 hours. By the end, every military installation had been destroyed or captured. The once mighty defense fleet was reduced to scattered debris floating in space. The orbital cities that housed the Vorthak government were dark and empty, but the civilian population was safe on their new world, protected by human shields and supplied with everything they needed to survive. Vorthak Prime is secure, Emma reported from the Nemesis. All government and military leaders have been captured. The civilian population is unharmed. Ben opened a communication channel to the captured Vorthak leaders. On his screen appeared Overlord Zextai, the same crystalline being who had ordered Earth's destruction 500,000 years ago. The alien leader looked exactly the same as he had in the old recordings, preserved by technology that had kept him alive for eons. You, Zextai said, his crystalline voice filled with shock and recognition. You're the human from the defense platform, but that's impossible. You should be dead. I am dead, Ben replied calmly. I died when you burned my world, but death doesn't stop humans, we just come back stronger. Actually, Ben was the great-great-grandson of the original Jake Morrison who had died defending Earth. But the genetic, memory implants made him remember that day as if he had lived it himself. In a very real sense, he was Jake Morrison, returned from the grave to claim justice. This is only the beginning, Ben continued. For 500,000 years you celebrated the destruction of my species. You built monuments to your victory. You taught your children that humans were a plague that needed to be eliminated. You were a threat to galactic peace, Zextai protested. Your kind would have consumed everything. Maybe, Ben admitted, but you never gave us the chance to prove you wrong. You decided to commit genocide instead of trying to find another way. Now you'll face the consequences. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human fleets were striking at hegemony worlds simultaneously, their attacks coordinated across thousands of light-years. The Kelthani homeworld was under assault by biomechanical ships that could adapt to any defense. The Zephyrian core worlds were being invaded by human soldiers who could phase through solid matter. Each attack followed the same pattern. Military targets were destroyed, government leaders were captured, and civilian populations were evacuated to safety. The humans were not conquering the galaxy. They were surgically removing the leadership that had ordered their extinction. "The hegemony is finished," Ben announced to his fleet. "But our work isn't done. We still have one more target to liberate." The final target was Earth itself. The dead world that had become a monument to humanity's destruction would be reclaimed by the children of those who had died there. The military academy built on the ruins of human cities would be torn down. The alien officers who had learned to celebrate genocide would face justice. "Set course for the Sol system," Ben ordered. "It's time to go home." The human fleet began moving toward the edge of the galaxy, where Earth waited. Behind them, the scattered remnants of the hegemony tried to understand what had happened. The species they had thought extinct had returned as something beyond their comprehension, and this was only the beginning of humanity's homecoming. General Sam Brooks stood in the command center of the assault ship Liberation as it emerged from dimensional space at the edge of the Sol system. Through the viewports, he could see the dead world that had once been humanity's birthplace. Earth hung in space like a gray stone, covered with alien structures that sparkled in the light of the sun. "All human fleets are in position," reported Colonel Danny Parker from the communications station. 150 ships ready for the final assault." Sam nodded grimly. This was the largest human fleet ever assembled, representing warriors from 97 different colonies scattered across the galaxy. They had come to reclaim their ancestral home and to finish what the hegemony had started 500,000 years ago. "Target analysis complete," announced Dr. Grace Turner from the tactical station. "The aliens have 47 orbital platforms around Earth. Each one is heavily armed and shielded. The surface installations include the military academy, weapons, testing facilities, and that monument they built on our ruins." Sam studied the holographic display showing Earth's current state. The blue and green world of humanity's memories was now a brown and gray wasteland. The aliens had stripped away the atmosphere, drained the oceans, and covered the continents with their geometric structures. "How many enemy personnel are we looking at?" Sam asked. "Approximately 200,000 aliens on the surface and in orbit," Grace replied. "Most are students and instructors at the military academy. The rest are support staff and garrison troops." "And civilians?" "None. This is purely a military installation." Sam felt a cold satisfaction at that news. Unlike the homeworlds they had already liberated, Earth contained only the aliens who had chosen to make careers out of celebrating humanity's destruction. There would be no innocent bystanders to evacuate. "Begin the approach," Sam ordered. "All ships, full stealth protocols." The human fleet moved toward Earth like a gathering storm. Their ships flickered in and out of visible reality, existing, partially in other dimensions where alien sensors could not detect them. To the defenders of Earth, space appeared empty right up until the moment the attack began. The first sign of humanity's return was when the orbital platform above North America simply vanished. One moment it was there, bristling with weapons and shields. The next moment there was only empty space and debris. Alarms began screaming across every alien installation in the system. Emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels as hegemony forces tried to understand what was happening. "Unknown ships are attacking," came a panicked transmission from one of the orbital stations. "We can't get target locks. They're moving through our shields like they're not there." Admiral Jake Morrison materialized on the bridge of his flagship, the Resurrection. He was not the original Jake who had died defending Earth, but his genetic clone, grown from DNA samples preserved in the colony ships. The memory implants made him remember his original's death as if it had happened to him personally. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Liberation Fleet," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "To the alien forces occupying our homeworld, you have 30 minutes to surrender. Anyone who fights will be destroyed. Anyone who surrenders will be treated according to the laws of war." The response came from Overlord Jextai himself, speaking from the command center of the military academy on Earth's surface. The same crystalline being who had ordered humanity's genocide was still alive, still commanding, still celebrating his ancient victory. "Impossible!" Jextai's voice crackled with electronic distortion. "We destroyed your species. Your world is our monument to that victory. You cannot be here." "We're harder to kill than you thought," Jake replied. You made one mistake, Overlord. You left some of us alive. That was enough. On Earth's surface, the alien military academy erupted into chaos. Students and instructors ran for emergency shelters as human ships appeared overhead like avenging angels. The crystalline towers that housed classrooms and training facilities began to crumble as dimensional weapons struck them from impossible angles. "Target the monument," Jake ordered. "Remove that obscenity from our world. The monument to humanities." Destruction was a massive crystal formation that covered what had once been the eastern coast of North America. It projected holographic displays showing Earth's conquest, celebrating the extinction of the human species for the education of young alien officers. The human ship Vindication phased directly above the monument and fired a single shot. The dark, matter beam struck the crystal structure and began unmaking it at the molecular level. The monument that had stood for 500,000 years dissolved into nothingness in less than a minute. "No!" Jextai screamed over the communication channels. "That monument represents our greatest triumph. You cannot destroy it." "Watch us," Jake replied coldly. The battle for Earth lasted 3 hours. One by one, the orbital platforms were destroyed or captured. The surface installations fell to human assault troops who could phase through solid matter and survive in the vacuum of space. The alien defenders fought bravely, but they were facing technology and abilities they could not comprehend. When the shooting stopped, the Sol system belonged to humanity once again. Jake transported down to Earth's surface, appearing in what had once been New York City. The area was now covered with alien structures, but he could still see traces of the human city that had existed here long ago. Twisted metal that might have been part of a skyscraper. Fragments of concrete that could have been sidewalks where children once played. Overlord Jextai was brought before him in energy restraints. The crystalline being looked exactly the same as he had when he ordered Earth's destruction. His technology had kept him alive for eons, preserving him to face justice for his crimes. "You should have stayed hidden," Jextai said, his voice filled with bitter defeat. "The galaxy was peaceful without your kind spreading like a virus." "Peace built on genocide isn't peace," Jake replied. "It's just delayed justice." Around them, human soldiers were beginning the work of dismantling the alien installations. The military academy would be torn down completely. The weapons testing facilities would be destroyed. Every trace of the hegemony's presence on Earth would be erased. But that was not the end of humanity's plans for their homeworld. Dr. Grace Turner activated the terraforming equipment that had been hidden in the human fleet. Massive machines began pumping gases into Earth's thin atmosphere, restoring the air that humans could breathe. Others started melting ice from the asteroid belt to refill the empty ocean basins. "How long until Earth is habitable again?" Jake asked. 50 years for a basic atmosphere," Grace replied. 200 years for a complete ecosystem. But we can start building settlements within a decade. Jake nodded. Earth would live again. The dead world would bloom with human cities, human children, human dreams. The aliens had thought they were building a monument to humanity's death. Instead, they had preserved the world for humanity's rebirth. But the return to Earth was not just about reclaiming the past. It was about building a new future. "Open a channel to all surviving hegemony forces," Jake ordered. When the connection was established, Jake's voice carried across the galaxy to every remaining alien fleet and colony. "This is Admiral Morrison speaking for the human species. The hegemony is finished. Your leaders who ordered genocide have been captured. Your fleets have been destroyed. But we're not here to replace your empire with our own." He paused, letting his words sink in across thousands of star systems. "Any species that wants to join a new galactic confederation based on equality and mutual respect is welcome. Any species that wants to go its own way will be left alone. But any species that tries to repeat the hegemony's mistakes will face the same fate." The response came from all across the galaxy. Many of the species that had been enslaved by the hegemony declared their desire to join the human confederation. Others chose independence, which the humans respected. A few tried to continue the old ways of conquest and domination, and they quickly learned why that was a mistake. Captain Danny Parker supervised the construction of New Geneva, Earth's first rebuilt city. It rose from the plains where Switzerland had once existed, its towers reaching toward the stars. But unlike the alien structures that had covered Earth, this city was built for life, with parks and lakes and places for children to play. The memorial to Earth's destruction was built in the center of the city, but it was not a monument to hatred or revenge. It was a reminder of what happened when species chose genocide over cooperation, war over peace. As Jake stood in the memorial garden watching human children play under an alien sun, he felt the weight of 500,000 years lifting from his shoulders. The long exile was over, the debt had been paid, humanity was home.